Hi guys, it's Coach Joe Micela, Performance One Advanced Sports Training. We had a great amount of questions that were asked of us coming out of last week. We just wanted to answer some of those questions. One of the questions we had was asking about foot stance in our squats. So obviously we have our back squat and our front squat. There's going to be our starting point, our starting positions, and then we can branch off from there. But our first thing, the way we teach is that we're going to have our feet roughly about just outside our hip width. We don't say shoulder width because obviously you could deal with smaller athlete or females. They could be shaped more like a pear. If you just say shoulder width, it's not going to give them ideal position. So we usually say hip width. One inch wide, you should be able to put your butt between your ankles. In terms of toe or foot placement, if we're looking straight ahead and thinking of it as 12 o'clock, we want our toes to be turned slightly out to about 11 and 1. We don't want to see 10 and 2. We don't want to see our feet in excess of that hip width position either. If you need to, that means you're really tight. But ideally, we want to see our position for our squat. We don't want to always emphasize knees out, knees out, knees out, because that can actually make you in a kind of a bow-legged position, and we don't want that. Knees forward as long as your hips are aligned is okay. Having your knees go forward over your toes is not a bad thing. For a long time, okay, there was a lot of physical therapists, a lot of even doctors that were saying, hey, knees over your toes is a bad thing. It's going to create all patellar tendonitis issues and stuff like that. In reality, and now we've come full circle, and I was never one believer that's saying not to go over your toes, is that is okay. As long as we have ankle, range of motion, and flexibility, knees going forward is not a problem. Here at Performance One, we teach all beginners a 3-position squat. They'll initially learn, once they get their feet in alignment, we teach feet and balance over the middle of our foot, not excessively back on our heels, not out over our toes, middle of your foot balance, okay? We don't want to be backwards on the back of our heels because we're going to feel like we're falling back. We don't want it to be dramatically that much different. We want to be as much similar as we talked about in our previous video. Why? Because we want to transfer those as much into our clean position, our pull, and our snatch position. The more specialized our squats become, the less they transfer over into our lifts. Again, we were powerlifting, different animal. But even from a strength and conditioning standpoint, an Olympic lifting standpoint, we want to keep them very similar. Another question we had was back in my day when I was in my prime, how much has lifting changed between now and then? First of all, I'm still in my freaking prime. But in reality, what has changed? Methodologies have changed a little bit, exercises a little bit, and some of the selection of equipment has changed, nutrition. In reality, there's just more information that can kind of back up things that we were doing. My prime, or when I was lifting very seriously in the 80s and 90s, it was still about hard work. In Olympic weightlifting or using strength training for other sports, the principles are still the same. You have to train hard. Okay? You have to get your body to progressively adapt to harder training. And that training, whether it be the volume, whether it be the load and the intensity, the frequency, you have to challenge your body to do that. Now the recovery methods, the nutrition, what to eat, sleeping, stuff like that, you've gotten more information. So as the years progress, we confirm certain things, we dismiss certain things. So the generation now, and obviously the generation from 5 years from now, will have more of a body of knowledge than we had in the 80s and 90s. We still trained very hard. We had some of the information we have now in the 2000s and in the 2020s. Then, it would have helped a lot of people out. But in reality, like I said, we just trained really hard. So the mindset is different. Now I think we rely a little bit too much on, hey, I got to do this warm up or that warm up. Next thing you know, the person spent an hour, they didn't even touch a barbell. You're like, what the frick? And man, are you going to train anytime today or what? My Zodiac and Mars and Venus are not in alignment. I can't train today. Like, that's bullshit. You have to be able to just say, hey, listen, I didn't have this specific perfect warm-up, this specific foam roller, or this flossing technique, or this freaking, voodoo exercise, magic mushroom potion that you had to drink before you got into the actual workout. Freaking train. Show your freaking ass up. Be mentally tough to do that. Something may go right, something may go wrong, but by the end of the day, you got to train, And then the generation before me had less than what I had in the 90s. So in the 80s and the 70s, those guys and the girls, they just got after it. They trained. They knew I had to do this, and they didn't leave the gym. They didn't leave the track. They didn't leave the wrestling room. They didn't leave the football field until they did that much work. So again, mentality's probably changed a little bit. You've had more access to equipment and information and knowledge and research than we had in the 80s and 90s. But, like I said, everyone will say their generation was the toughest. We worked with what we had, okay? In this generation, you have so much now, it's more about deciphering that information. But you still have to have that mentality. Work hard. push your body to do things it didn't do before. Within reason, but you have to go to that wall, and then you have to go through that wall. And some people need a coach to get them through that. I'm the guy for you.
And on the